7:15 here on the programme. So the South African Broadcasting Corporation, that's the SABC, yesterday tabled its 2018-2019 annual report in Parliament. Although the broadcaster remains confident that the implementation of its turnaround plan will ensure financial stability at the corporation, there has been criticism levelled against it for an apparent failure to prevent irregular expenditure and for not holding those responsible liable for its dire financial state. This as the corporation reported a net loss of 482.4 million rand at the end of March 2019, which it has subsequently attributed to losses incurred on sporting events and interest incurred as a result of the liquidity constraints. The SABC board says a further contributor to the loss is the decline in total revenue by 3% to 6.4 billion rand from that of the 2017-2018 financial year. So to help us unpack this, we're joined in studio by SABC board chairperson Bongamusa Makhathini. Good to see you. Thank you very, very much for coming to talk to us.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers and listeners at home.
So we look at the number of 482.2 million rand net loss. This is not good news for us at all, is it?
Yes, but certainly if you look at the trend, when we came in, the losses were about 1 billion rand. They moved down from 1 billion rand to about 744 million. And the 482, it's an improvement of about 35%, which is significant improvement considering where we come from as SABC.
Yeah, let's go into a little bit of detail. So where are we losing? What is the big problem right now?
If you look at the 482 million rand loss, it's as a result of sports rights. You will recall that one of the major challenges or the major drivers of our costs is sports rights. So the big chunk of that, over 400 million of that 482 can be attributed to sports rights, which is an issue that we have dealt with and that will continue to challenge. But also the other challenges, because of our liquidity challenges, we are incurring interest because if you look at our trade and other payables, they're sitting at about almost 2 billion rands. By the end of March, we sit at about 1.6 billion. So the interest that you incur from that, that's what really drives it. But when you look at and you unpack those details, you realize that there's quite a significant improvement.
Yeah, I suppose so. And yet we still look on and I mean, we talk about the problems at the SABC and one just looks at, obviously the financial situation is the big one. And I think what people are so upset is the Rugby World Cup. Now there is one pure indication of why people just get very upset with the public broadcast. I know it's a lot of money, but when you talk about things of national interest, perhaps one would think that a World Cup rugby would be one.
Certainly, as the SABC, we're fully committed in fulfilling our mandate, but we also need to be very prudent and very careful about what we do and at what cost. It will be irresponsible of the board and the executive team to allow this entity to collapse if we enter into contracts that don't make commercial sense. And as you look at the trend, I mean, we've renegotiated a lot of these contracts. We've reached an agreement with PSL, for example, and we're about to conclude with SAFA and so forth. And we're renegotiating these contracts so that they can also be fair and be commercially sensible from the SABC side. Yeah. It will not make sense for the SABC to carry this burden at the expense and risk the collapse of the SABC.
Well, and one can understand that because it's a very difficult time. So in the statement you say that you are confident that the implementation of the turnaround strategy will ensure financial stability. These numbers don't seem to be demonstrating it though.
When you analyze all the numbers, I mean, I've taken you through in terms of our irregular expenditure and what has happened in that area. The majority of the irregular expenditure that we have relates to the prior years. If you look at the current financial year that we're talking about, it's far less. About 63%, if I'm not mistaken, relates to the prior years. And the majority of that then can be attributed to what happened in the past. So where we are now, the big issue is interest incurred from the liquidity challenges that we face with. But when you look at also on the revenue growth, I mean, our revenue has declined by 3%, and that 3% can be attributed to competition, which is very tough for us, but also the fact that we have not been able to invest in compelling content. We've also not been able to invest in marketing initiatives. But overall, the business is turning around. We've been able to cut about 1 billion rand of cost. And there is signs of improvement. I mean, if you look at the coverage of the elections this year, we've optimize that cost. I mean, it used to be about 80 million rand. We've covered the national election for under 15 million rand. It just shows you that there's a high level of innovation, strategic perspective that the new executive team has come up with. So when you look at our numbers, it shows a significant improvement.
The big problem, and I think one needs to look at this quite seriously, is this number of 63%, an increase of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. What's going on here?
That 63% of the irregular expenditure relates to the majority of that, like I've said, the 63% relates to the prior years.
Yeah.
All right? So that's a big chunk that we have to deal with, but it's got nothing to do with 2018, 2019. All right? For 2018 and 2019, we're only looking at the interest and some of the issues that relate to sporting events. But the majority of that, it's prior years, prior to our time, and we are tackling it. And if you look at what we've done in terms of dealing with our audit opinion issues, I mean, we've improved from a disclaimer to a qualified. In a short space of time. That's a significant improvement if you look at what the team here has been able to achieve under very trying circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, we've got another one here of 81 million rand incurred as a result of interest and penalties due to late payments. So is this, as you say, again, relating to prior years?
Certainly, because if you look at our debt that we're sitting with, it has to do with what happened in the past. And if if the injection that we had requested had come in earlier, that 81 million rands would have been properly managed. That's one. But secondly, if the turnaround strategy start really gaining the momentum, you will see that this turnaround strategy has got the potential to turn around the SABC. These numbers that we are sharing with the public today shows a significant improvement. And once the money gets injected, it will actually take another level of momentum and speed.
Let's talk about the injection of money, because this is what the SABC has been asking for, still waiting on the bailout. What's happening there?
Based on what the minister said over the weekend, we've met all the conditions that were given to the SABC, that's one. And as soon as all the administrative things are taken care of, we will be able to come back and announce that bailout, but it's imminent.
Imminent, so you're confident that even after these results have been released, and I mean, I must say the one confident thing is, as you mentioned, from the Auditor General, from being a disclaimer to a qualified. Now, it is a big move. So are you confident that we will qualify now and the monies will be paid over soon?
Certainly. I mean, if you look at what we've been able to achieve without the injection, for the past 18 months, we've been able to keep this organization afloat. We've been able to deliver our mandate. If you look at our ICASA targets, a lot of those targets given to the SABC in terms of local content and what we need to project and communicate, we are exceeding a lot of those targets. So it shows you that without any financial injection, we've been able to keep afloat. We've been able to deliver an election. We've been able to develop an app which actually help us during the election and the website. There's quite a lot of things that SABC has been able to deliver. We've managed to continue paying our employees in spite of our difficulties. So certainly, with the injection of the bailout, we will actually do even better.
With a bailout, what do you plan on doing? How do we run this place differently? Because if it just carries on the same old, we will find ourselves back in the same position. So under this current board, and the leadership here at the SABC, with this injection, how will things be different to how they've been before?
I mean, when you drive change, there's a number of things that are key. One is innovation. All right? So you need to drive innovation in a way that drives efficiencies in certain areas. I've just given an example of how the costs relating to national election were reduced from over 80 million rand to about 14 million rand. It was through innovation and decisive leadership. But also it's about having a strategic perspective. The strategy that we've put in place addresses a number of key areas. It talks to digital platforms. It talks to making sure that our content is compelling and is available in all platforms. It talks to us leveraging partnerships. It talks to us attracting competent and talent of people that have a pool of people who've got prerequisite expertise to do the work. It also talks to us strengthening governance issues. So driving change requires innovation, strategic perspective, and of course, input from other people. That external perspective where you also hear and look at what's happening around you to inform the direction at which you do things.
Very quickly, television licenses. Have we gotten a bit more confidence from the public back? Because that was one of our big problems. We lost confidence in the South African public. We saw revenue collection for the TV licenses going down. How are we looking now?
We're looking very positive. As we start delivering results, solid results like the ones that we've delivered now, the general public and our stakeholders and people that cares about the public broadcaster are encouraged to continue contributing through their licenses. But of course, we've also put a request to say 72 cents a day for what we give you, 19 radio stations, 5 TV channels. It's not in line with the reality in terms of what it's required for us to continue delivering on our mandate. But we are confident that the public will support us, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback based on what we've been able to achieve. And I want to thank our employees and the leadership team at the SABC for keeping this organization going in spite of the challenges that they face every day.
Finally, are we still technically insolvent?
As soon as the money hit our bank, I think as the SABC will be in a better position, and we're quite clear what we're going to do with that money. We've got to drive maintenance projects. We've got to get compelling content, which has been one of our major challenges. But also we've got to make sure that we pay those that we owe, so that we can get to a position where we are able to attract new revenues and innovate the way we do things and continue implementing our turnaround strategy.
I know I'm hanging on for dear life because I know I've got to get to sports news, but when you say pay people we owe, how much do we owe? What is that looking like?
At the end of March this year, we're sitting at about 1.6 billion rands.
Okay, so it's a big bill that we need to pay. But we're still technically insolvent until that money hits the account. That's what you're saying. Let's leave it there for now. That's our chairperson here at the SABC, Bongamusa Makhathini, being very open about the financial status of the SABC, especially after releasing the results yesterday before Parliament. So thank you very, very much again for being with us.